Well, good morning and a warm welcome to this week's edition of The Dialogue. It is the big show. My name is Prince Apollo. It is that time when we reflect on the big events that made our week. And we have had really an eventful week, full of surprises concerning events happening here and there, looking at the declaration that we in Uganda have an outbreak. There is an outbreak of Sudan Ebola virus, and that is a matter of concern. Looking back at how Ebola ravaged this country and how highly contagious the disease is. Happily, the Ministry of Health confirmed that they are taking steps to contain the virus spread, and we hope for the best. But again, looking at what is happening across our borders, the escalation of tensions in the Democratic Republic of Congo after the M23 rebels took over the largest city in the eastern region of the Kivu province, and the death, the humanitarian crisis and all that, the unrest now triggers tensions in the East African region. It's another matter of concern. But also, if we look at the decision by the Supreme Court in the continued and long-standing matter of trying civilians in military courts, the unanimous decision by the whole bench of 7 justices of the Supreme Court ruling that the continued trial of civilians in military courts is not only illegal but unconstitutional. It's a matter we will dissect in this program, and the panelists will be telling us what this decision means, but especially looking at the timing of this verdict or ruling, considering that there is a high-profile case going on in the General Court Martial involving Dr. Retired Colonel Kizza Besigye, and of course the political tensions ahead of the 2026 elections. Well, my name once again is Prince Apollo, but on the panel, Dr. Gerard Were Wanzala is here. We'll be joined by Richard Baguma, but we are privileged to have Kennedy Mutenyu. Kennedy Mutenyu is a member of the Democratic Party. I'm happy to have you here. Doctor, first speak to our viewers before we kick off the show.
Thank you very much, Apple. Good morning. I'm happy to be here as always. And good morning to my brother on the left, my senior. I saw him some time back. I think while he was still a marketing professional in a Coca-Cola. At that time, we were playing Coca-Cola post-primary championship, and you did a great job in the country. Good morning to our viewers. I bring you greetings from our republic, the United Republic of Chirinya. We love you so much.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't speak about Namisindwa.
Well, I was in Namisindwa last month, January, so I've not been in touch, but they are watching us.
All right.
Especially the Bubutu Town Council where I come from.
Bubutu Town Council.
Yeah.
True. Thank you so much, our viewers in Bubutu Town Council, Namisindwa. Kennedy Mutenyu, speak to our viewers.
I'm also very grateful to come for my maiden show here.
Yeah, true.
And I would like to appreciate your gesture of inviting me to try and add value to what we are seeing. Like you rightly said, I come from the Democratic Party, which also is marking 70 years. We are the second longest surviving political party in Africa.
Sure.
After the NNC. Therefore, I normally tell my friends that please listen to what comes from the DP, because there is nothing that is happening now that has not happened before or we have not seen. When you talk about the unnecessary court appearances of political prisoners or political people, you talk about DP. When you talk about killing of our leaders, we have seen. When you talk about rigging elections, we have seen. We are one of the few parties in this country, the other being UPC, that have been both on the opposition and in government. So when we come here, we want to add value.
Yeah, true.
I also would like to say I was very, very disappointed yesterday. I've been down with a lot of flu. That I missed the burial of the sister of our national treasurer, Honorable Babirye Kabanda, who lost a sister. Apparently, I later realized that the sister who died is even a wife of my immediate former boss, Mr. Moses Lima, at Coca-Cola. So we lost that one. Then early in the week, we attended the burial of one of our good guys, Amin Semakula in Butambala. So I would only pray and tell our members at the Democratic Party that it is God who gives us and it is God who takes away.
Wow.
So we shall be like we are in war. When one of you falls, you just
proceed.
continue. Because we must put this country right. And I like the title of this program, Dialogue.
It's the dialogue.
It is point number 3, one of the 4 points of the cooperation agreement, the pillars, national reconciliation, dialogue, electoral reforms, and peaceful transition. Because as a party, we believe in peace.
Yeah. The dialogue.
Yes.
This is the dialogue, of course. And Kennedy, one quick comment on the Democrat Party. What is happening? What is happening after the Electoral Commission declared 13th March as the date for the by-election in Kawempe North? We don't hear much coming in from the Democrat Party. And you head the Electoral Commission
Yes.
of the DP?
Yes.
What's happening?
Quite obviously, like you said, you are a political party whose job is to compete for elections here and there. The difference with us, we are not like people who visit prisoners and they take selfies. We have visited the prisoners. You go and do this, we have done this, we have done that. As I talk now, one, the assurance is the Democratic Party is going to have a candidate, and not just a candidate, but a very good one in Kawempe North.
Okay.
Any constituency in this country, you'd want to have such a person. So we are going through the internal processes. Our leaders in Kawempe, in conjunction with the national team, have been sitting. We are trying to do some peaceful Kamyufu, and we expect that we have 2, and out of those 2, they are now sitting together to agree on who, because we believe instead of going to do voting, this and that, which might divide our votes, we think the 2 are going to agree on who remains there, so that as a united force, we release one. But all I can say is watch this space, especially you people. We are going to show you politics in Kawempe North here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's encouraging. Quick comment from you, Doctor. DP is celebrating 70 years, and he says this time watch the space. You'll see how powerful possibly this old party will be.
First of all, I want to congratulate them for making 70 years. It's not easy. As a person who was in the UPC, youth activism, and what we faced, both internally and then the external forces tearing the party, pushing some of us away to not to focus on other things. They have gone through that turmoil, so it's not easy. But I also believe that the terrain in Kawempe North is quite complicated because, of course, this used to be a stronghold of the DP, but because of the challenges DP is undergoing at the moment, I think many people have disengaged who would have pushed the DP candidate to have a smooth ride in Kawempe North. So I believe the serious contestation is likely to be between the NUP and NRM.
Not DP.
They may be challengers, but I don't expect them to be on the lead.
Let's hope for the best. This is the dialogue. Let's kick off the big show. Let's quickly look at the Supreme Court ruling in which all 7 justices of the Supreme Court unanimously agreed that it's not only illegal, but it's unconstitutional to continue trying civilians in the military courts. And like I said, Dr. Wiri Wanzala, looking at the courage of the justices with which they were delivering their verdicts, the boldness, looking at the timing. Like I said, we have a high profile case in the General Court Martial involving a prominent political activist, Dr. Kizza Besigye. Here we have, I mean, he's battling serious offenses, very serious offenses. And the Supreme Court makes this ruling now. And they are aware of the interest of the president in this particular case. I think even His Excellency, the president made it clear a few months ago when he said, actually the court martial has helped us in stabilizing this country. What do you make of this judgment going forward?
First of all, I want to congratulate the people of Uganda, because this case was not about the Honorable Kabaziguruka.
True.
It wasn't only about Kizza Besigye. It wasn't only about the NUP detainees. All of us were potential candidates for the General Court Martial because of what we speak, sometimes that may not go down well with the ruling government. So if we have such a landmark ruling, then I congratulate the people of Uganda, because this was public interest case. And I also want to congratulate the Chief Justice and the justices of the Supreme Court. You remember we were here weeks back, and then I said that actually the people who are on trial are not Dr. Kizza Besigye, but the Chief Justice and the justices of the Supreme Court. Why? Because if you look at the background, this matter has been in our courts for over 20 years, these issues about the court martial. If you remember the issue of Kizza Besigye, 2005, you remember Kabaziguruka and so many others. And then we have had rulings by the Constitutional Court. Some of the justices now serving in the Supreme Court were part of the bench in the Constitutional Court that ruled against trying civilians in the court martial. But looking at this particular one, between 2021, when Kabaziguruka took this case to court, it was a long time, because we expected the Supreme Court to have finalized this case even 3 years back. There are people who suffered, like Olivia Lutaya. You leave a baby of 1 year old at home, and then you are detained. The court martial cannot even give you bail, you know, for all those years. You see the trauma that you can go through. So it was really long overdue. At the end, I think this case of Dr. Kizza Besigye helped to amplify the voices of the citizens of Uganda who were opposed to the court martial. Because now, when he refused to take plea, which was very important, that I cannot take plea in a court which lacks jurisdiction to try me. And he referred to the Constitutional Court ruling and the appeal in the Supreme Court. When they said apply for bail, he said, I cannot apply for bail if I have not taken plea. Why am I then applying for bail? So I think that resilience helped us to amplify the voices, including the radical bar leadership of the law society. Yes, to ensure that we speak collectively to ensure that this matter is sorted once.
Did you expect
and for
such
all.
a ruling?
We had worries when we saw the Captain Ola added on Kizza Besigye's case. First of all, there were questions about Ola's age, particulars, and then they say in the court martial he was facing a different case sometime last year, around February. But now this is a person who was being introduced at the time we were saying. So we had the suspicion that probably this Ola could be used as a false witness to continue subjecting Kizza Besigye, the court martial, as a co-accused of Captain Ola. But of course, for us who come from Bogisu, when a boy is going to be circumcised, the crowd you see following the boy and giving the morale, carrying sticks, is to ensure that the boy goes and does what he's supposed to do and stand firm. So basically, the discussion we've been doing using all the spaces was to give the courage to the justices of the Supreme Court to say, you know what, you are not alone. You can, at least you can redeem your legacy. There are people who have served, gently this country, like Owinyidolo and others.
About to retire.
Yes, about to retire. So if you are retiring and you're also president of the chief justices in the whole of Africa, so what kind of legacy are you going to, how do you tilt this ruling to deviate from all other constitutional court rulings? So I think this is a victory for the people of Uganda and a victory for the judiciary, but we are now also waiting for other relevant agencies to execute their mandate. One, there are directives of the Supreme Court. The orders. One, that all trials of civilians ongoing should immediately stop. And where possible, such cases should be transferred to the civilian civil courts. That is one. Two, there was directive that these security agents to desist from going forward and admitting other cases of a similar nature in the court. But they also gave another advisory note that
the UPDF
that if the UPDF disciplinary court is incompetent because it lacks the staff who are trained, you remember what the Chief Justice used. He said that I am a lawyer, a professional lawyer. If you take me to Mulago to do surgery, I will not know where to cut the patient, either to cut a liver or the kidney. I may end up just killing the patient. So he was like, this court also lacks the professional structures and the personnel to effectively handle matters of criminal nature, including, by the way, the soldiers who are sometimes convicted of murder and given sentence of maybe 40 years or 30 years without even being given an opportunity to appeal. We have the court-martial court of appeal, but I rarely see it functional. It's not in place unless someone. So for me, I think now it's up to those agencies to see that they respect the rule of the law.
So it was about legacy of these justices of the Supreme Court. They considered their legacy. It was about public interest. I mean, the morale and the pressure from the public. What now, or where does it now? Where does this leave the whole sentiments that have been in the population that these are cadre judges? These are what the image of the judiciary. Where does it leave the image of the judiciary now?
I think I cannot use only this judgment to make a blanket comment on the judiciary. Of course, we have had other similar cases in the judiciary where we see people like Mabiri's last time just being pushed without being heard, just pushed for contempt of court, and you go for how many months? Almost, 13 years.
It's Aaron Kiza.
No, even the civil court.
Oh, okay.
We saw Mabiri's, the activist, going for contempt of court for Mabiri's for a long period of time. We have seen cases whereby we had an election here in Asana municipality where it was discovered that one Wakaima did not have his names. Then there was a discrepancy in his name in the national ID and on the voters register. Now in the ruling, there was a second candidate who came after him, but the judge ruled that the third one should be sworn in. So the third candidate ended up serving as a member of parliament, and we were like, oh, which kind of ruling is this? How did you arrive at the third candidate of NRM being sworn in? Okay. So we still have those loopholes, but I think the public needs to be conscious. If there are some apples that would love to destroy the judiciary, then people should fight. People should fight up to the highest court possible to ensure that they get equity, they get justice.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jared Wiri Wanzala. Dr. Wanzala is a public policy researcher, but also an associate lecturer at Uganda Management Institute. Kennedy Muchenyu, did you really expect this ruling from the Supreme Court?
Thank you very much. Some months ago, I posted on my Facebook page, I said that this case had put government in an embarrassing situation. It was taking on an international dimension.
The Kiza vs. J or Baby Rutare case.
Yeah, it was taking on an international dimension. It was bringing into question the credibility of the court-martial. It was putting Uganda in bad light. And I said the only way they can do is to ensure that the Supreme Court reads their ruling that civilians cannot. That was the soft landing the government had to have. Because I still question myself, does the NRM have advisors? Was it necessary that even the Supreme Court had to do this? Even if you've not been to law school, when you even read the present law, bad as it was, I mean, you get somebody from across borders, then you say, we have an arrangement, and then you arrest lawyers in court. What Dr. Besigye and his team did was to tell the world, we have told you these people like this, see what they are doing. Then every decision that Freeman had to take, they have to go out first and talk. So what is he doing there? Let them put the right person there. And really, to me, the key word in yesterday's ruling was competent. So the judges told these people they are very incompetent. And I'm telling you, incompetence was written all over during the hearings. Would see. You charge somebody, Rosa, you sentence someone without hearing, without charging, without doing what? Not even a first-year law student can do that. And you think, you see, at the end of the day, when Justice Owiny Dolo finished his ruling, tears were flowing down my cheeks. And for two reasons. One, I said, how about those who suffered the injustice of this court?
People who died.
There are people who died. There are people whose life was messed up, whose lives were messed up. What do we do?
There are others who served longer sentences, actually.
I remembered the late Bendich Chiwanuka when he made that ruling that is said to have led to his death, where he gave bail to some Muzungu against Idi Amin's wishes. And even when he was told, when he was told that please go into exile, he refused. Today we don't have his grave. I remember that. And I looked at the injustice we have gone through all throughout. The pain was not physical, the pain was inside me. I shed tears and I was seated alone. So I still ask, I mean, if this government doesn't have advisors, we can help. We can help and come in and help.
Did I hear you say it was good for government to have this ruling come out as it did? Are you saying there were consultations?
I am saying,
I mean, to reach.
yes, I am saying that this case had put government in bad taste.
Yes.
It had put them in an embarrassing situation. They were in a corner. Dr. Besigye made it worse by saying, I will not take plea. I will not even ask for bail. Now, there was no way Freeman would say, we give you bail, we grant you bail.
Yeah, but
Okay.
are you
So,
saying the
what I'm
justices of the
saying-
Supreme Court
What I'm saying,
they received advice from
no,
anyone?
that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, that I posted this months ago on my Facebook page, because I looked at it is already an embarrassing situation.
True.
How does government get out? Besigye has refused to ask for bail. So I said the only way that can save government and give them a soft landing is for the Supreme Court to read the ruling. The ruling actually did not help Besigye, it helped government.
Sure.
Because there was no way they were going to wriggle out of the problem. They were already in a tight corner. You grab somebody from across the country without extradition processes. You start arresting lawyers in court. You start making it difficult for defense lawyers to come in. Then you have some people who didn't have a clue. You see, Aaron Kiza must be a very happy man.
Yeah.
That he indirectly was telling them, you are incompetent.
Exactly.
You are incompetent. Now the court says you are
They
not
are.
competent to do this. And look at the examples Owinidolo gave, Justice. Like me, you take me to Mulago, you tell me, cut someone. I don't know the difference between a
The
liver
liver
and
and the
this.
kidney.
Now, really, in Uganda we call it kujerega. It was terrible, and I felt very proud
Wow.
of my sister Justice Bamgemerere.
Yeah.
She's from our area. I said, yes, Bugisu produces brilliant people. I saw Justice Mugenyi and the other one. And I said, yes, my mother in her grave must be very happy from the West. I said, this country has got brilliant people. But what is lacking is, does government have advisors? They act before thinking. They think later. Why would you do such a thing?
Now, that now takes us to the question of what now happens. Because, like I asked Doctor, the image of the judiciary had reached that point
Yes.
where people would look at the justices and the judges and as cadre judges, cadre NRM cadres. What now does this ruling tell?
You see, again, like I said, I think the judges redeemed themselves. But because of even our bad politics and culture here, regardless of whatever was taking place, the comments by some people about our judges was wrong. They ended up getting embarrassed, was wrong. Imagine, will a man like Birigwa, what's for Birigwa, apologize to this country? There was a press briefing he had, I think the day before, that we have been told that these people are going to do this and that. That now tells us that Birigwa and his group confirmed that they are nothing but rumor mongers. Because who told them, okay, now the ruling came out, so should we ever believe them again? Waswabirigwa and your team, you must apologize to this country. One, for trying to put the Supreme Court judges into disrepute and telling lies, because you have confirmed that your sources are a pack of liars.
Yeah.
You see? And to me, at the end of the day, I even said, because we've been around for some time, I was telling my brother at home that I was with him. I said, you know what? Because they asked me, now what is the NRM going to do, the government? I said, what they are going to do, I expect them to come up and say, you see? And the NRM also was assisted by the ruling. Because I said they are going to say,
you say the ruling,
we are the rule of law.
ruling saved.
There is the rule of law in this country. There is this. So the ruling was the win-win for everybody.
Really?
And when I saw Honorable Bariomus saying, no, this is rule of law, I expect them to do that. I expected them to do it, and when they did it, I laughed loudly. From crying when the ruling was being made to laughing, because I said, this is what they are going to say, and they exactly said that. 39 years, you still behave like this?
Wow.
They owe us an apology.
An apology. Thank you so much, Kennedy Mtenyu. And Kennedy Mtenyu is a politician from the Democratic Party, actually leader.
May I make a correction?
Make it.
I am a political leader, not a politician.
All right. He's a political leader in the Democratic Party.
Yes. Not a politician,
Not a
because
politician.
some politicians are very funny.
That is true. Be part of this discussion. If you're watching, send in your comment or observation on 0701609906. We are looking at the gravity of this Supreme Court ruling and its implications. Can we now say that democracy is taking root? Was it only about the legacy of these Supreme Court justices? What does this actually speak to the judiciary and its image, which had taken a different turn? Dr. Gerard Weru-Wanzala, looking at, I heard Honorable Michael Kabaziguruka speak after the ruling, and he said, this is not my victory. This is the victory. This is for Ugandans. This is for our democracy. Can we now say democracy is slowly taking root? The rule of law in this country is firmly being entrenched.
Well, the way I understand democracy, apart from the definition, which almost everyone knows, the government of the people, for the people and by the people, but there are tenets of democracy, or pillars of democracy. One of them is rule of law. And rule of law means equality before the law, and then the application of the law in a blind way. One of the principles of law is that it should be blind. The law should not have eyes to look at you, to look at him, and interpret differently. So it is just one of the pillars of democracy. But there are other pillars that make democracy, like free media, meaning that free access, people can speak, use it, and access it equally. We have things like free and fair and transparent elections. And then we have the freedom to assemble, and the freedom to peacefully demonstrate when you are not happy. So there are so many pillars of democracy. So if we can halt this, we can say it is an achievement for a democracy. Then, because the Supreme Court is the highest court in the land, and if it pronounces itself on this, for me, I give a plus. Even if government also intended to oppress people for all these years, but I also, congratulate them, because as my brother has been saying, they will say we have achieved. We are the one who established this. But I believe we need to look at other, aspects of democracy, where we are seeing so many weaknesses, like corruption, public accountability. We still have a culture in this country where a suspected thief can cause you to be jailed because you named her or him for having been involved in stealing resources of the taxpayer. We still have challenges with our elections. Up to now, we are crying about the electoral reforms. When the Honorable Norbert Mao joined the government, and then he spoke about things that are taking him there, like the peaceful transition, the electoral reforms, the national dialogue. Today, the term is ending.
When the tenure even
we are not seeing anything.
Is expiring.
And even when I see him speaking publicly about those issues, he seems a bit frustrated whether he entered a correct alliance of people who are serious, that people now are branding him as someone who just went to earn money. So we still have those challenges. And we have, again, Kizza Bessigye's ruling not less than 2 years ago, where the courts ordered the government to pay him for having refused him to speak in 2016 on UBC TV. So it was violating his right of not accessing media freely. We have seen RDC's order radio stations off. In the last elections, Patrick Oboyamriat paid for a radio station in Padel. When he went on air, the man talked for a whole hour, not knowing he was talking to himself outside the it was off. So he thought it was.
So we can celebrate this victory.
Yes,
but it's
but
not.
If we are to talk about democracy, we have other demands as citizens that we must demand that they should be respected. We want accountability institutions to independently function.
Okay.
That if I took a petition there, then it can be handled. We want the ethics tribunal to work, that if there are issues of ethics like the parliament and the 500 million, we can go there and it can sit and transparently handle these matters.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you agree with Kennedy that the ruling actually saved government and from embarrassment?
Unfortunately, it is the situation is like a person who was bathing on the highway, okay, and then after finishing, and then you put on clothes. They've already seen your nakedness. So even if you cover up, the people have seen how you look, and therefore you are not able to effectively cover your shame.
Yeah.
For me, that is how I interpret it. But it was a good way for them to come out of it.
Okay. I'll be reading your messages as they come in. Go on, send in your comments and observations. Don't call that line. Just send in messages via WhatsApp, via SMS. I'll be reading those comments in just 4 minutes from now. Can this ruling be ignored? Because I've read somewhere and a source that we cannot now take, serious, that the CDF has said, be it a ruling from the Supreme Court or what, this cannot be tolerated. Actually, I read it out. It is attributed to the CDF, but I am not sure about it. But let me look out. You can tell us what you think. Can it be ignored?
I've seen, I think, what you want to read. But this is my advice, that we are like all monkeys living in the forest. If you choose to light a fire in the forest, you may also be a victim at some point. So my advice is that if you are charged with an office or responsibility, we hold these offices in trust on behalf of the people, not on behalf of ourselves. So if we have the judiciary, we have the legislature, we have the executive, concentrate on your lane. Like, the executive has an obligation to ensure the peace and security of Ugandans, the welfare of Ugandans, the economy.
This is the statement. The General Court Martial will continue to try anyone who conspires to murder the president, commits armed rebellion against Uganda, and engages in terrorism against the people of Uganda. Under no circumstances will Kizza Besigye be released until he faces the full extent of the martial law. The final decision on this matter will be taken by the chief, the CIC, the commander-in-chief, and Chairman of the High Command, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Like I said, I cannot confirm if this is the official statement.
But
from
I
the
can
UPDF.
only refer them to the advice of the Supreme Court yesterday, that if they feel this law is the current course is not okay, they can go and cause an amendment, okay, an amendment of the UPDF Act and other relevant laws, including the Constitution. But it should not be by word of mouth, because if you put such a statement, you tell us the law. This is what Aaron Kiza has been telling the chairman of the court martial, that it's not about your words, it's about law. You quote for us the law that you are quoting.
All right. Kennedy Mtenyu, can this ruling be ignored? Because the orders were really very clear. Immediately cease and transfer the pending cases in the court martial should immediately cease, and they should be transferred to a civil court. And actually, I saw the lawyers, the petitioners, celebrating and saying, actually, Kizza Besigye should be released there and then, and other prisoners.
Thank you very much. You know why I'm saying I'm very happy? Like you introduced me, I'm from the Democratic Party. When you ask the majority of people, they know the shorter version of our motto. They will say it is truth and justice. But the founders of this party got those two words from a long set of words. Truth to mankind and justice to all before the law. Okay. That is where they got truth and justice. Now, yesterday, there was truth to everybody. And there was justice before the law. So, today, like I said, after 39 years, I think this government should reshuffle their group of advisors and so on. That is if they're advised at all. Quickly, when I'm to talk about what you have read for us, I would also add on that the CDF is said to have said, don't take my tweets seriously. Seriously. So at the end, you can see we are in a dilemma. But at the point, when Justice Odoki was reading the advisory orders, Justice
Alfonso
Winyidolo. He said the choice to follow these is yours. And quite interestingly, this is the last court. So there is nothing that can be done about it. So the NRM government can either choose to redeem themselves, or at least wash one eye and leave the other one dirty. Or they can choose to further expose themselves. But like I said, the president needs to be advised, government needs to be advised. The Supreme Court, actually the biggest beneficiaries of this ruling are the government people. It's government. It's government that has benefited because they were in a tight corner. This ruling has gotten them from the tight corner. Well, I saw Honorable Bariomunsi saying, okay, we are going to study this. What are you studying? The thing is as clear as day follows night. So let us move on.
Yeah.
Because we, at the Democratic Party, we look at this country. Let us put Uganda first.
Yeah.
Like Honorable Kabaziguruka said, this ruling is for Uganda.
Yeah.
As long as you say you are Ugandan, this ruling has saved the embarrassment you were putting on Honorable Martha Karua, on the judges, on the lawyers and so on, and even on the people on the panel of courts, judges.
Yeah.
Kiza Aaron was telling them, guys, you are not a court. And the Supreme Court judges said so. So what we should be doing is, and by the way, not all is lost, because in the court martial system, the military appeals court is led by civilian, who Justice Eli Turiamubona. So it is there. And I remember at one time, the Chief Justice said, other than the military court or appeals court, the rest. So if you look at the ruling of the Supreme Court, the only person who was spared is Eli Turiamubona, the chairman of the appeals military court, because he is a lawyer of good. He has been a chief magistrate. He has been this. He has been that. But the rest, my friend, even Freeman has been freed from the embarrassment. He has been freed.
Okay. Let me read the comments. And Richard Baguma, we are waiting, but now that you've started sending in messages, we know what may happen. I think we all have to agree. This is Richard Baguma.
Yes.
I think we all have to agree that all armies have internal disciplinary mechanisms that as what should be structured. Otherwise, if a military officer commits a crime outside service offenses, he or she should be subjected to normal judicial system. You get him, right?
Yeah.
All right. That is from Richard Baguma. Thank you so much for the comment. But we expect you on this show. Good morning, Apollo and the panel. Today, I'm happy to watch Mr. Mtenyu, one of the great brains in the Democratic Party. My submission on the Supreme Court ruling is that they ruled what the legal minds expect of them. It was up to yesterday that I got to understand that the members who sit on the court-martial bench, some of them are not lawyers. It's so embarrassing. Secondly, we wait to see if the Supreme Court ruling will be respected by government, because it's one thing to rule, but another to put into practice. I am Abel Keru Akampumuza. Thank you so much for that comment, and thank you for watching. Sol TV, and together with everyone in the studio, thanks for the program. Just adding on what's on the table, civilians involved in breaking the law using military items should be charged by the court-martial. Thanks, retired Edison from Katoke. He's a retired.
But I've just told him that the court-martial is not a court. It is a disciplinary...
You can respond. You respond to him.
Yeah, I think his view would be emotional, but the ruling yesterday by the highest court in Uganda was that it is the court-martial is the disciplinary...
For service offenses.
Yes, for serving officers during the time of service. Otherwise, it's not a court, a competent court. I think let me use that word, competent.
Okay. This is Jasha from Kasanga to Uganda, has no right procedures in law, just serving the commander-in-chief. We are just living in a grave. Oh, but God knows. Just it's your opinion, but looks like somebody who has lost hope in what's going on. Thank you for watching and making your observations. You can continue to send in your observations via WhatsApp, via SMS. The number is on the screen. You can send in your comments. We only have 3 minutes to go for a break. Doctor, can you conclude on this? Are we going to see the UPDF Act overhauled, because almost all the provisions have been declared unconstitutional? I don't know.
I foresee that, because if a law has been rendered hollow, like you have seen cases where NUP people have appeared before court because of what they wear. I've seen several times lawyers asking, can you bring the gazetted uniforms of UPDF, and we see whether this one of NUP is for UPDF. They have always dodged. They have always dodged that. So I think there needs to be an overhaul of the law. You saw the Justice Bamugemereire saying, in principle, by hierarchy, these court-martial reports to the commander and chief of the defense force and other hierarchies.
Yeah.
And you know, in the military,
I'm a high command.
a military, a boss is a boss. So if it tells you that you jail for me, Mutenyo Kennedy, you a junior, you cannot refuse, because by hierarchy you will have, you know, insubordination, and you can also be charged. So I think, for fairness, the law has to be amended to ensure that if it is about bishops and reverends, they are tried in Namirembe. If they are policemen and have violated the code of conduct of police, in Naguru, we know where they go. You shouldn't get me jailed because I'm wearing the robes of a reverend, and you take me to Namirembe when I'm not a bishop.
Finally, from you, Kennedy, in just 1-2 minutes, what do you expect from the commander-in-chief, the Army High Command, which had interest in this court martial with its, its current form?
Thank you very much. And briefly, what I'll tell you, when you listen to some of the messages that have come in and some comments that are being made here and there, you realize this country is in a problem. It is in a problem, and you have one group of people which is saying, we are removing a dictator, the man must go, they don't care how he goes. Then on the other side, you have another group that is saying Muzei Tova Kumeini, what. So that's why we as Democratic Party come in and say, this man who is seated in the presidential seat doesn't have to just drop and probably break his bones. Let us put there a ladder for him to come down. Then any other person uses that ladder to go up. This ruling has done a reset. We are resetting Uganda. Let us look at Uganda. Let us not look at President Museveni's interests or the opposition or what. Let us look at Uganda. We had been put in a terrible, embarrassing situation. You go across borders, you grab people, you do this, you do that. So, in brief, let us do what Justice Owiny-Dollo and his colleagues told us. Let us make Uganda better.
Thank you so much, our viewers. Thank you so much, Kennedy. Thank you so much, Werihe. Let's go for a short break. I'm sure the ruling has reignited some confidence in the population that justice is possible. Justice is somewhere. Of course, still looking at the Supreme Court ruling, a landmark ruling that I said reignited some confidence in the public and in the judiciary. Let me continue to read these comments before we switch to our next topic. Seems like there are many more coming in. Good morning, presenter. On that issue, I also help us who are in uniform. We are also facing the same. See, and I think, like we saw the lawyers celebrating, I think that even the serving officers, some of them were celebrating this law.
All of them must celebrate.
So this is a serving officer. Good, he or she did not send the name or identities, but he says, help us. We who are in uniform, we are also facing the same. Hey, thanks for the program. Please talk about UNEP people, how they hide our people's results and make them redo the exams. My child didn't get his PLE results. Quite hurting and it's really concerning. But we may not go into that. But it's really sad that a child can sit for exams and the results do not come.
I think it depends. If there are suspected malpractices, UNEP usually withholds results.
I didn't hear during the release of the PLE that some results were withheld. I didn't hear that. Anyway, I think the president wasn't ambushed by the judgment. He knew it before us. Now it's going to be who presses the political buttons better, because everything here is political. I am Akumbi Isaac from Kono Chisoga. Thanks for the show. Can it be possible, Mtenyu, that the president knew about this ruling before it was read out?
I would only equate that statement to what we used to hear when President Museveni and others were still fighting, that the man could turn into a cat, that he could turn into anything else. So that's how I would equate that one.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we'll move on now. I'll read the messages as they come in. But let's now move on. Gentlemen and ladies, the unrest in DRC has ignited tensions in the East African community. Actually, the Great Lakes region and beyond. The takeover of Goma, it's not the first time. The other time, the M23 were repulsed and they withdrew. But something to note is the refusal by the Kinshasa government to accept that this issue can be settled through dialogue. It can only be settled through military means. And now the diplomatic spat between Rwanda and South Africa, there are many issues to talk about. I don't know where you will start from, Dr. Werehe, on this particular issue of the war in Congo. I mean, fortunately, last evening we heard that people were returning back. There was some relative calm, but you can be sure that the tensions are still simmering, and you never know what will happen, because even the UPDF issued a statement. They are taking a forward defense posture, offensive posture, wherever they are in Ituri, in the jungles of Congo.
Yeah, thank you, Apple. Maybe I'll call Richard a prophet. Every time we have been here and discussing Congo, he insists we're going to come back here and talk about Congo again.
True.
And the topic will be the same, the war and the M23 and others. And I think it has come to pass. Maybe for the benefit of our viewers, I would like to summarize the issues in this in the conflict in the DRC. I think one key issue are the security aspects. That you have a Congo, a DRC, with a government in Kinshasa, but then it does not have the ability to instill security and effective administration in the eastern part of the country, therefore harboring groups like the ADF that base there and attack Uganda. Then you have the remnants of the Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, others call them Interahamwe, who, when were defeated in 1994 by the RPF, they raped Congo as refugees. So they have been there, they have produced children there, and children also recruited into armed conflicts. So in the end, they are accused of fighting side by side with the Congolese government. And this gives an excuse for Rwanda to constantly be involved in Congo, but also other forces like our own country that enters Congo. I think this is around the fourth time since 1995, in order to go and weed out the enemies of Uganda. That is one aspect. The other aspect which is being amplified a lot globally is about the resources, the economic aspect. That it is estimated that the government of Rwanda, the country Rwanda, is earning about the last year $1 billion from the minerals. And then they say when they look at the mines in Rwanda, they are not there. So they claim the gold, the coltan, tantalum, all these minerals pass through Rwanda and are taken to the UAE, United Arab Emirates. So if there is such significant resources supporting a small economy like that of Rwanda, then I think it can also be a serious source of conflict. Who wouldn't want to be part of that, also to benefit from that? But it also fuels the war, because the M23 are able then to use that money to arm themselves. And if you look at them now, they look more organized, actually more smarter in terms of dressing, in terms of look, even compared to the
equipment.
To Congolese for the vehicles that they entered with in Goma. And then the other issue that is critical is about ethnicity and citizenship. That you have the Banyamulenge, of course people are saying Banyarwanda, but in Congo, there are greater Banyarwanda who moved there, some of them born there in the old kingdom, but we also have specifically the Banyamulenge who are the 2C version of the Banyarwanda of Congo. So now, these people say the allegation is that their citizenship is not recognized, that they are attacked by the forces, they are neglected where they live, they don't have any government, a presence of government, like a government facility, a hospital, a school, and they claim the government even works with groups like the famous Wazalendo. There's a group called Wazalendo that they ally with to go and terrorize that population there. So now, these all collectively are the ones brewing this conflict to reach where it is now. But there are also arguments that there are interests by the two neighboring countries to create a buffer state, zone between the government of Kinshasa and East Africa, that if these groups are used to pacify this region, then the rebels who are threat to Rwanda, the threat to Uganda, may cease to exist. And the example which is given is how South Sudan emerged. That there were accusations by Uganda that Khartoum was hostile and harboring groups hostile to Uganda, including the LRA.
You create South Sudan as a buffer,
state, which is a friendly state to Uganda, such that there you diffuse the tension between Khartoum and this. So all these factors are at play.
Okay. Quickly speak about the refusal by Tshisekedi Felix to accept that these are the M23 and the Nyamulenge are Congolese and are citizens of Congo, and they deserve attention, and dialogue should be the way to go.
I don't want to go that line, that line, because if I do that, then I'll be a little bit dishonest, because I remember President Tshisekedi went into dialogue with this same group, with the M23 some time back. You have heard of the Rwanda conference, Rwanda peace process in Angola. And then the agreements therein. But then I think for me the biggest issue is suspicion, lack of trust. While it may say let them assemble, then they will be demobilized, and then they join the Congolese forces. At the same time, is pointing the finger at Rwanda, saying he wants to continue because of the minerals. But also, you saw that when they raided these places and captured, you are seeing a number of white mercenaries with the dollars. Some of them are mercenaries, but some of them are business people who take advantage of the risky areas to go with arms and mine. You know that part of Congo that you can find an airfield, a brief one, where planes just come from other places and land and carry minerals and they go. So some of them could be mercenaries, but others could be people who take risks to go and look for opportunities. Like I told you, the minerals, some of which I have talked about, they are being used in electric vehicles, they're used in batteries. They're being used in so many, in communication gadgets. And so not every country has them. So it makes that place lucrative. And there are people where conflict is where they do what? They survive. But in respect to smuggling, timber, everything. That place has almost
So
everything.
you agree with Baguma that this is not about to end. We will again return here, speaking and discussing the same
Yes,
issues.
I'm not seeing a path to the end of this conflict. One, if I look at Goma, the capture of Goma, because the M23 have ever captured Goma in 2012 for 12 weeks. When the AU and others came in, they disengaged and pulled out. So I'm not sure about the motive. If the motive is about creating another country, I think the conflict will escalate.
Okay.
Because I saw the statement by the African Union commending the forces of the South African Development Corporation, SADC, comprising of South Africa, Malawi, and others, for coming in to restore peace. Meaning that while President Kagame is calling the South Africans aggressors who are fighting instead of being peacemakers, but those forces came with a mandate of peace enforcement, not peacekeeping. Now, the difference between peace enforcement and peacekeeping is that with enforcement, you take on the groups, sometimes with the intention of forcing them to disarm. The only challenge is that those that are trying to disarm are battle hardened, I think, than those who came to do the peace enforcement. They understand the terrain better, maybe they are better equipped and they have the experience.
Kennedy Mutenyu, the DRC question has been on table for now 2 decades or so. Did you see a solution anywhere near?
Thank you very much. This Congo question has actually been around for about 50 years or 60. You remember the allegations in the Ugandan parliament that Idi Amin had gone to
the gold scandal.
The gold scandal, that was about 60 years ago. And I think Uganda has been a player. Rwanda is now a player. You find that a lot of things are at play. Like my brother has said, there is a citizenship question versus the nationality based on biological issues. There is the politics of the Indian Ocean versus politics of the Atlantic Ocean. M20 Goma, this is the 3rd time it is being taken over. And there is, to me, a reason why President Tshisekedi asked the East African force to get out. And he seems to be comfortable with the
South
African fort. But if any advisors are here watching this program, they should tell President Tshisekedi and the other players, remind them of the title of this program.
Dialogue.
It is a dialogue that will keep things, because as a country, Uganda, we were starting to do the roads for business purposes.
Trade.
Trade. So our trade will be affected. And at the end of the day, it is possible for us to live peacefully. So Tshisekedi must be open to negotiation. Uganda and Rwanda must be open to that. You see, when you look at Congo, we have some people who probably came from Rwanda. They helped in the liberation war in Uganda. They went to Rwanda. They are now in Congo. They are like professional fighters. So at the end of the day, we need to look at a lot of things. You see, one other major thing and one lesson as Uganda we get from this Congo conflict is that having political parties or political groupings based on regime change. Like we are saying in Uganda that the dictator must go. We are removing a dictator. Museveni must go. When he goes, what next? Because this started with Mobutu must go. From Mobutu, it came to Kabila must go. And then Kabila number 2 must go.
Joseph.
Now it is Tshisekedi must go. Let us stop that and work on state building. One of the missing points in Congo is people have forgotten to build the state.
But there could be will to build a state, but now there are these conflicting interests, like he talked about, very different interests in the same region. There are interests of the two neighbors he didn't want to mention. Definitely, there are also interests of the UN. The UN is the US.
Yes.
Foreigners. There are interests of the SADC, these who are coming in as peacekeepers or peace enforcers. Even Tanzania has its interests in the DRC. So aren't these conflicting interests making the path for dialogue really difficult?
I think what must happen in Congo, like my brother was saying, must be enforcement. Probably these two East African neighbors should remember very well how many people died in their countries, and probably pull out and let's say SADC take over. And the international, because it is similar to the case, the court martial case we have been, the thing has taken on. Congo is now not a Congo issue, it is an international issue. So the international players must come in. Has this thing happened elsewhere? Yes. These conflicts have happened in other countries. How have they been solved? We had issues in Rwanda and Burundi. This is a
bit peculiar.
Yes.
Considering the vast mineral, riches and wealth that is in Congo.
But the question, Apollo, is haven't we had a similar case in other parts of the world?
Okay.
How have they been solved?
Okay.
Yeah.
It can only be through dialogue.
Yes.
That's what Kennedy Mutenyu says, but let me now look at the comments that are coming in. Okay, DRC shares 54% of the world's coltan, so this is not going to stop in the near future. The whites cannot sit and watch as an African country making use of its resources well. Makumbi Isaac, thank you so much for that comment. Mr. Paul, I think the issue of Congo conflict, Dr. Wanzar has discussed it better. The major issues in this is not the Congo president, but the following issues: ethnicity, economic reasons, need to build buffer territory by some East African leaders, and the politics entirely. What needs to be done is simply embracing diplomacy as a tool of international relations, and mindset change by the Congolese to start thinking about their nation building. Kelu Abel Akampumuza watching. Thank you so much, Abel Kelu. I will quickly see what Baguma is typing, but let's now also wind up on this particular issue.
Yeah, he talked, my brother talked about dialogue, and I absolutely agree with him that dialoguing is key to ending this conflict. But the challenge is that some people are coming to portray themselves as facilitators of the dialogue are not trusted themselves. In this recent summit called by President Ruto, you saw that the President Tshisekedi does not trust Ruto himself.
Oh, he didn't even attend.
He didn't even attend. And then he went on to actually his spokesperson addressing the press and saying, you know what, we don't trust President Tshisekedi, does not trust President Ruto. And also to reflect last year, when there was an agreement that the East African Standby Force, composed of 5,000 troops from Uganda and 5,000 troops from Kenya, go and create a buffer to separate the M23 and the Congolese forces. Within a period of less than 4 months, President Tshisekedi started saying that the forces of Kenya, Uganda, and the M23 were coexisting and looting together. That is when the parliament in Congo passed a resolution to expel those
Ugandans
forces from Congo.
UPD.
And immediately, the Kenyan forces were expelled. Our forces also in the South Kivu were also expelled. So we remain with only the forces that are under
Shuja.
Operation Shuja in the north.
In Ituri.
Yes, exactly. So now, if you have the East African community, where presidents are shouting at each other, not trusting each other, the mediator is not trusted, then what kind of dialogue are we doing? I think it is important probably that we disengage and we leave the parties that are trusted by both DRC and the people in the conflict to take over.
Is it Tshisekedi alone? Because others think that Tshisekedi is also being used by the US. Is serving the interests of the US and foreign powers.
Of course, there are those allegations, but also historically, you see that even when President Joseph Laurent Kabila was faced with a rebellion from the east, he ran to the other bloc. Actually, it is Angola and Zimbabwe that came to the rescue of. You remember what they called the World War of the Great Lakes region, when we were all there, Uganda, Rwanda, and then we had forces of Angola fighting together with the DRC forces. So I think historically they seem to be comfortable with the other side compared to.
Where does this leave the prospects of the East African community now? You have a DRC which you've recently adopted as a member state. Well, you adopted it knowing it has problems, but now the mistrust is it is not getting any better.
Apple, I have always said it here that I have had an opportunity to study integrations. I've looked at the European Union, I've looked at some integrations in Asia, and East Africa, we seem to prioritize quantity. That you have brought Congo, you're bringing 90 million people, and therefore you say you are increasing the market. But you don't have, like the EU when they're admitting a member, first of all, they emphasize the quality of governance within the member state. Then the ticking box. And then they can give you a semi-candidate status for some time
until you
qualify. But if you only collect garbage, you can have a small EAC signing bilateral trade agreements with neighbors rather than carrying all the problems to the community simply because you want to appear like you are growing and you're becoming bigger. At the end of the day, it is dysfunctional.
Kennedy,
because you're only looking at this.
The future of the East African community, where the chairperson of the East African summit, head of state summit, invites members to deliberate on issues affecting a particular state. The head of that particular state even snubs the meeting.
You see, I almost thought my brother, Dr. Wanda, had cut into my head to say what is already in my head. Here, we've emphasized more on the markets, that we now have the Congo market. That's why we even started rushing when we are dying of potholes in Kampala. We rushed to do roads in Congo and so on. We forgot. Look at what you call East African community. You have term limits in Kenya, you have term limits in Tanzania. In Rwanda, they are extending left and right. In Uganda, we've removed everything. You cannot know what is in Congo. As we are still thinking about that, we go for Somalia. So we are looking at the market, but not knowing that even if you have a market, you must have a willing buyer and a willing seller. Now, if you see one of your own saying, President Tshisekedi, I don't trust the East African force, go back. You now have the answer. We are like this partition of Africa where countries were put together hurriedly. So really, tell me what puts Uganda and Congo, when you look at these three original East African countries, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, you can see a lot of similarities. But what puts us together with Rwanda, with Sudan, with Congo, and now with Somalia? But that Tshisekedi has said, you know what, you guys, get out of my country. That is enough. So, the other day you have a member of one of the community closing a border for about 3 years, and they are busy laughing before cameras, smiling. They have even failed to fulfill what is in the East African protocol, East Africa trade. You look at the wars in the trade, you stop my milk, you stop my rice, you stop my what, then you tax this, you tax that against what is in the East African Community Pact. My Secretary General, who is chairman of the conflict resolution in EALA, Honorable Siranda, I think has a job to do.
Yeah, true.
And one day, if you invite him here, because he heads the committee on conflict resolution in EALA, that one will help us. The East African Parliamentary Committee on conflict resolution. So I think he now has a job on his hands, and I don't know, but we cannot go back to the original three. We should have rebooted. And we said, we, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, how do we move?
All right. Thank you so much, viewers. We are actually closing in on our last segment. Thanks for the program on the atmosphere in Congo affect Uganda, and how is Uganda going to deal with the refugees from Congo when Trump is freezing grants and foreign aid? Actually, that's a matter of concern. It was indicated in the statement that was presented in Parliament that more than 500,000 Congolese refugees are in Uganda. And with these tensions, we expect many more. It's a concern, I think. And even with these executive orders of Trump cutting or suspending aid for humanitarian assistance.
When I saw the executive order of Trump, it exempted the humanitarian and refugees. But of course, with the refugee issue, it has so many other multilateral donors. And for me, my worry is we have been having these movements. Now, if you have these deaths, every time there's severe conflict in the DRC, you even see diseases like Marburg, Ebola, like already we are hearing. So for me, that's the worry, that some of these pathogens escape and then they come here in form of diseases. Refugees, we already have a serious burden, although I have discussed with the government officials who also think refugees is another sector that stabilizes the shilling. Yes. I used to think otherwise, but you had a big donor conference here for refugees, and what was doing was presenting our burden aside, people pledge more. So to the government official I spoke to, the refugee sector is key, is one of those that bring in some dollars.
Anyway, let's quickly look at what is happening in Kawempe North. It is this week that the date for the by-election was declared, 13th March.
It is in March, yes,
Yeah, and a lot more is happening now around this time, as different political formations are organizing and preparing for this by-election. I don't know what you, Kennedy, thinks about this election. Others think that this election sets pace for the 2026 general elections. Others are worried that if at all we adopt our usual methods, this may be another violent by-election, considering its location within the urban city, within the city, and many also conflicting interests in this by-election.
You see, when I look at Kawempe North is going to be very interesting. I don't know whether people have asked themselves, why, despite the numerous court petitions, election petitions, there had not been any by-election around Kampala and Wakiso? Is it by accident? Is it by accident really? That all the petitions that were filed around Wakiso and Kampala, none could succeed?
Yeah.
So that is a very big question, that it has had to take the death of someone for a by-election to take place.
So a by-election was inevitable.
It was inevitable. Because all by-elections through election petition had somehow been blocked, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
But that it has had to take a death for a by-election to take place. That alone tells us that there is more than what meets the eye.
Yeah, true.
So when you get into Kawempe, we used to have our MP there, like my brother had said, Haji Ali Serunjoji. When you look at our DP manifesto 2021-2026,
Sebuliba was also...
Yeah, Sebuliba was in Kawempe South,
South.
the one of Wandegea. So, but this is the one of the real Kawempe. So our manifesto's title was Reclaiming Our Future.
Okay.
So the Democratic Party is in this to reclaim our position. Two, recently we had two barriers, political barriers. One was of the Lese Girinya, the other was of our DP man, Amin Semakula. The religious leaders from the Muslim faith thanked DP very much for having calmness at the burial of their colleague. And we allowed all sorts of people to come and talk. At least we never grabbed the dead body, we never did what. So we are bringing, the Democratic Party is bringing sanity into the Kawempe by-elections. We want, I'm sure the candidate will get, because we have two, the candidate will get, every constituency will wish he was their candidate. Because he's going to be a man, there are two men left. We will put up a good show. We will show people how they campaign. We will talk about issues. We will not play the politics of Wewe, Agende, and so on. No. We want the politics of Kawempe. It is an opportunity.
The question is, are the voters in Kawempe ready for that candidate?
The question again, I can amend it. Are the voters in Kawempe ready for a mature, peaceful, issue-based candidate? That is where we want to put this country. We did not go as a party into the cooperation agreement with the NRM because we thought they are angels, because we thought they fulfill everything they promise. We went there because as Democratic Party, we put this country first, like I've told you.
Okay.
We are telling the NRM, this country should be better for all of us. We are telling those in the opposition that if you burn down this country, what will you take over when these people go eventually? So, in Kawempe, we think our candidate, our party, look at the manifesto if we had time, and one day you should invite me here. When you look at our manifesto of 2021-2026, it is based on 5 pillars, 21 milestones, and 45 million dreams, which means every single Ugandan's dream is in our manifesto.
Wow.
So the Kawempe North by-election has a big bearing on 2026. You have already seen we are going to have very interesting dimensions. And I can only say, watch this space.
Watch the space. Dr. Gerard Werewanzala, what do you expect in this by-election? Is it truly going to set pace for the 2026? Can it?
Yes, I believe it's going to set the pace, not maybe for the whole country, but of what is likely to happen in the central region. We are in 2025, where the electoral cycle starts.
Yeah.
And of course, most likely a party that wins that constituency is likely to keep it in the next elections. My brother talks about the manifesto. True, DP authors very good documents, and I cannot doubt their ability to produce a very big manifesto. There was a time we did analysis of manifestos, and DP's was one of them. Unfortunately, what kind of population are we looking at? What civic competence, what level of civic competence do they have to make informed decisions? We were here with Honorable Richard Lumu. He was lamenting last time that what happened. We used to have MPs like Paul Kawanga Semogerere, Engineer Darlington Sakwa, we used to have Wapakabulo and others. That today, someone can just shout on the road and people go and vote that person. For me, that worries me a lot, because I'm seeing the quality of leadership deteriorating at every level. It is a matter of concern, because they say every country gets the leaders it deserves. So if we cannot have civic competence, then you know that the leaders who are going to be elected will resemble the people who are voting them. And this is continuously happening, that you can vote a leader at the highest level like parliament and cannot make a competent statement to be understood by a speaker, even in 2 minutes. Even when you give a script to read, someone's going to struggle to read. We have seen that.
Okay. We are looking at the upcoming by-election in Kawempe North, in the race to replace the late Honorable Muhammad Segirinya, and very many, I mean, more than 10 aspirants have already expressed interest in that particular election, by-election. And from what we are seeing, Dr. Were Wansara, the NRM has decided not to go, to organize their Kamyufu. The DP here are also saying the same. The NUP always, they have their selection, process. They don't, okay, it may qualify, but not the real Kamyufu. And people are concerned that being in the central, the city, the middle of the city, it can take the trend of by-elections like the one we had in Kayunga, very chaotic and violent. Do you see effort to have this election peaceful and non-violent?
At the moment, I don't see any efforts to, because by this time the messages would have already started going around, voter education messages, how to cast your vote, don't be violent, because we know that Kampala is one of those hotspots in our elections, but I'm not seeing any efforts investing in that. However, if you compare with Kayunga, the most of the bases of the NRM are in the countryside. So Kayunga is rural, and which was known for having NRM as it was an NRM base. So the fight for Kayunga was a blood fight. But you may find that the NRM may not even put a lot of effort like they put in, they demonstrated in Kayunga, because they know Kawempe is almost a gone case. There are constituencies here where even when you feel the goat, against an NRM candidate, they will vote a goat.
Okay.
Probably if I had to add on something small.
Yeah.
Kawempe,
you don't see any contest.
Kawempe is not going to be
on the side of NRM.
NRM is not a big player in Kawempe North. The war, in quotes, will mainly be between NUP, first of all, internally, and the Democratic Party. The FDC seems to have a weak candidate. UPC may not field any.
They said they are fielding.
So, but
A candidate.
first of all, the first war will, in quotes, will be within NOP. You've already seen that there are people who are, NOP is said to be known for buying the card. There is a war between what the leadership in NOP wants versus the foot soldiers. Yesterday, I saw one of these guys who recently came out of prison. Was it Umar or something like that? Olivia Lutaya is with him. And it seems the leadership at Kavule may go for another. Then you have this friend of mine who was formerly NDP, and despite seeing how the former DPs have been treated, he has also gone there. Now, my biggest problem will be, will the voice of the voters of Kawempe be heard? And I'm saying the challenge is on the Electoral Commission. Today in Entebbe municipality, we have a mayor who emerged number 3 or 4. The person who won those elections was Vincent Kayanja de Paul. He was the DP candidate. But what happens, why we are talking about reforms? There are forms where every agent signs the DR forms, declaration of results forms. When you look at those forms from Entebbe Municipality 2021 mayor elections, all the other forms of agents or of other candidates, including the NRM, were similar to the one of Kayanja, except one man who was number 4. And even when things went to court, and this is another challenge to the courts in Uganda, the man was left to lead. Kayanja won the elections. I think the NRM was number 2. Number 3 was an independent. The one who was 4th. So the biggest challenge is not even the voters in Kawempe or the political parties, but in Uganda, you can win elections. I can win elections, and my brother Wanda is declared the winner. So we want a situation where the one who actually wins
is the one who is declared.
Is the one who is declared. So let us go there and practice peace. Let the Electoral Commission, why you may not have very serious, you've normally had a lot of insecurity when the NRM is strong and the other people competing are strong. Now that the people who own the weapons of coercion may not be very strong
in
Kawempe, you'll have the small conflicts over Gende, the Wewe, foot soldiers versus the other ones. Of course, with us, DP can assure you of one thing, that we shall move a peaceful campaign.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, panelists, and we are now about to close the show. Richard sends in a comment here. Apollo, can my colleagues comment on the following? 1, over 200 Romanian mercenaries captured by M23 rebels. 2, the late Dag Hammarskjöld, former SG of the United Nations, died in a plane crash on a peace mission from Congo in 1961. 3, the Banyamulenge supported Mobutu during the Simba rebellion in Congo. 4, the language of Banyamulenge, known as Chinyamulenge, is a mixture of Chinyarwanda, Chirundi, spoken in TZ, Swahili, etc. 5, the role of Europeans, particularly the Belgians, French in Congo since 1980s to date, and the meddling in the conflict. Number 6, the role of the Americans through the CIA in the death of Patrice Lumumba. You will make a comment and we conclude. Just make a general comment.
Yeah, I think
what is Baguma trying to put across?
I think Baguma is trying to show the history and the key events, you know, in the conflicts in the Congo since the 60s. And so I think he just throws the ball out there to to the players or to the people who are trying to intervene in the situation that they should
that this cannot only be a Congo issue.
exactly.
It is
It has
it's
a
a
history.
multiplicity of
It
interests.
has exactly.
Imagine Romanian mercenaries. That actually demonstrates that one, the Kinshasa government has no power to manage Congo, but also the mercenaries may also come in with their other interests. Yeah.
Yes.
And the issue of the Banyamulenge, it's something maybe we need to interrogate when we have time.
Father, yeah.
We are running out of time. We have only 2 minutes to wind up the show. I don't know what you can make as your final comment. You can pick on the whole discussion.
Yeah, the final comment, I will pick it from the ruling of yesterday.
Yeah.
That the judiciary has done its part. The security agencies and the leadership should do their part to respect the rule of law. That if you lay the bed and you pour water on it, one day you'll sleep in the bed. It's a wet bed. So I think let's have sanity in our governance, because we will all live here with all our children and our grandchildren. If we destroy the country, you know that we shall all pay the price.
Good. What you're saying is cuts into what His Lordship Owinidolo said in the beginning before he delivered his verdict. He talked about lawyers who have been provoking him and insulting him. But he says, come on, guys, you'll end up coming to this place here. It's we who will settle your issues. And he said he is ready to receive them and work with them. Your final comment.
In 1 or 2 sentences, I'm saying yesterday's court ruling, Supreme Court ruling, brings out that what should Uganda be? And that when you look at Kabaziguruka, if he had given up, we wouldn't have had this.
True.
That is why I am telling Ugandans, let us talk, let us talk, let us talk. One day we will make them understand. 2, yesterday, you know, at the court premises there is a portrait of a sculpture of Ben Chwanuka. I think yesterday the Ben Chwanuka spirit came out very well. Let us, and finally, the ruling is also talking about what we have written in the cooperation agreement, electoral and constitutional reforms. It is talking about reforms.
Okay.
It is talking about dialogue. So my message to the NRM is, can you fulfill what you signed for?
Thank you. Thank you so much, our viewers. Thank you so much, my panel. Kennedy Mtenyu, it's a pleasure having you on the dialogue this morning.
Yeah.
Dr. Willie Wanzala, thank you so much. And Richard Baguma, thank you so much. Our viewers who sent in comments and observations, thank you so much for viewing. Everyone there, let's wish you a very productive week. The production team, thank you so much. Well, I can say God bless you all and God bless Uganda.